Genuine is going to ride his pony or something like that. And then it's like, it's just letters of the alphabet. Like it's not even that clever at all, but it's just for the adults to be like going,
Genuine.
that song. And then we'd sing the song a little bit.
I used to grind to that song.
That's right.
The grind. The Aussie grind when you can't dance. Just grind all night.
Grind. It's a leg hump.
Some girl wants to grind.
You're a grinder?
Yeah, big time. I remember dancing at Crush, which was the under 18 dance party at Seagull World. And we go in and you had to buy your tickets. You go in and buy your tickets. And then like you buy it like on the Saturday and then you go back in that night, but we'd get super drunk. And then you try and get in like past security with them being like, hey, you're drunk. And we're like, I'm not drunk.
No, I'm okay.
Yeah. And then you get in. Yeah, it was just like it was all on. Just grinding, video games, hip hop room.
I never went.
How did you never go?
I was just a hater.
Bro, you would have done so well there.
I would have done so. I was a hater.
You were actually black.
I was I was out the front like once or twice, meeting people after or whatever.
Doing like actual good shit afterwards.
Rat bags, just running around the front. No, I just never went. I was a bit of a hater. I was like, fuck it, don't need it.
I got kicked out for smoking cigarettes in the toilets. I remember that. So funny. So stupid, right?
Grinding and smoking ciggies.
Yeah, just sucking ciggies.
So there was no drinking.
No, it's under 18. Yeah. You can go play Sega out. Like all the video games are available.
Was it a bowling alley?
No, man, it was Sega World. It was like
Oh, I remember that.
different rooms.
There was BJs going on in the toilets and shit. I heard stories of.
Fuck, I never got
people
there.
getting bashed.
We're recording, by the way.
Oh, don't. Don't. Yeah, there was some people.
For sure. That I mean, unfortunately, I was never exposed to that myself, but not at that age. But dude, yeah, it was fucking hilarious.
Crush.
But yeah, that was
even Sega World. No one knows. Sega World was
place
just
was
came and disappeared.
Yeah, it was meant to be the fucking best thing ever, and then it just disintegrated.
I remember what was there before Sega World, and I love that. And there's still like a bit of a fond memories with the basketball courts that were there. I don't know if you remember the basketball courts.
Huh? I don't.
Just like courts, and they were just public courts. People would be playing games there like you do at any cool little centre. I mean, I feel like those areas aren't around anymore because we replaced them by buildings. You could have a Meriton on top. You wouldn't just have one square and a quarter acre with like 5 basketball courts on it, would you? But we used to be in the middle of the city and people used to come down, play ball all day, hang out, had steps on the outside, like a little bit of an amphitheatre type vibe. And you know how it is. You just come in, swap out, 3-on-3s, whatever was going on. I used to go there and hang out with my older brothers and they played.
And you didn't... That road that you take into the city now that goes down through that
from Anzac Bridge.
Yeah, that wasn't. We didn't take that road before. Hey,
we had the little bridge instead of Glebe Island Bridge. You had the little bridge that comes up past Channel 10.
Yes, that's right. It was low,
and it was only about.
I'm just trying to picture that section with the basketball because I'm sure I would have seen it, but I can't remember.
It was right there where Sega Well was. It was like that tan coloured. Yeah, it was cool spot.
That was the good old days of the city.
Yes.
I can't remember that far back.
Guys, welcome to episode 78, Jungle Brothers Podcast. We had a beauty last week talking about social media and remaining sane and ethics around it and that kind of thing with a friend of ours, Shona Virtue, on the podcast, which was really cool. That hour flew by, and I feel like we could do another part or two off that.
Definitely.
And I do think that topic will unfold over time and there'll be more to talk about. But yeah, it was really cool to kind of crack the lid on that. If you haven't listened to that, go check that out. It was a super cool episode. Today, we didn't have an episode planned. It's my job to be the guy that has the topics ready to go and the guests booked and whatnot. And I just didn't do it this week. I just didn't get to it. And then it always gets to like 15 minutes before and then one of us will be like, what about this idea? And then it'll be like, yep, that sounds good. Or, we'll adjust a little bit and then settle. So we've settled. We've found an idea and we've recruited Aaron Howley, Coach Azza. Welcome, Azza.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Yeah, cheers. Third time now.
Third time?
Yeah.
Are you a bit more rested this time?
Yeah.
I remember you were going through some sleep deprivation back those days because Ruby was newborn.
No, I'm still going through that.
Still happening?
Just a bit more relaxed now on in front of the mic. Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah.
We're going to rip into a bit of this talk about small business and parenthood. And I guess there's 3 fathers here and then a father to be, which is myself. So there's a bit to sort of unpack with all that. And this is not just a fatherhood thing. Like I said, it's a parenthood chat, really starting business and having kids and building a family and all that stuff, and why it always seems to happen at the same time. Before we rip into that, I want to tell a story about how the coffee came to be with us today. Has anyone been listening
Story
to my...
time with Joe.
Story time.
People, there's fans out there that like Joe's
They
story
like
time.
Joe's stories.
Not T. We've heard him too many times.
Have any of you guys listened to my podcast recommendation of Behind the Bastards? Has anyone cracked onto those?
I haven't
Behind
done it
the
yet, but you've
Bastards.
It's a
mentioned
great...
it few
Oh,
times.
you would love it, T. He just talks about the biggest bastards in history. Everywhere from Mark Zuckerberg to like Pol Pot to...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it talks about the beginnings of anti-vaccination movement. Talks about Hitler. Just amazing. But what he does, which is characteristic of his show, because he's always talking about bad things. He's always talking about genocide, rape, child abuse, like just horrible shit. And he's a pretty comical guy.
Why would I love that?
Well, a lot of people there that, Trump gets featured. You like listening to things about Trump.
Yeah.
It's not that though.
Hating on him.
I love the episode, I love it, but the subject matter is dark, but he has a way of bringing
Yeah,
some
I'd like
humor
that.
to it while also informing you. But he has these segues into his product advertisements that are always, and he intentionally does them really awkward. So he'll have a guest on every episode, and essentially his guest is a friend of his. They're usually a comedian, and he'll be like, today's part 1 of 3 on Scientology, and I'm going to tell you all about L. Ron Hubbard. And they'll be like, great. And so he'll tell the story, and then he'll inform his guest, and then they'll ask questions and add bits here and there. But then he'll say like, so Tiora, do you know what doesn't rape children and cause mass genocide in Ethiopia? And you'll say,
No.
and I'll say, Doritos. And then he'll go to like a Doritos ad.
That's awkward.
Yeah, it's super fucking awkward. But he always does it, and he draws them out, and you're like, oh God, it's cringy and whatever. But I'm sort of
It's
taking a
working.
bit of that. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
So anyways, the coffee today from Tree. I go to his cafe every Friday morning, and he gives me the coffee that is on our podcast. This is Panavore Cafe that sponsors our show. And I went to the cafe today, and he wasn't there. And I sat down and I ordered, and he texted me and said, hey man, I'll drop your coffee off at the gym this morning. I'll be there in 30 minutes. And I said, dude, I'm at your cafe. And he was like, oh shit, I'm at home. I'll come down. And then, I was like, oh, okay, if you want, I can just come by and pick it up on the way. He said, no, I'll bring it to you. And so moments later, I hear the girls talking about, it was Tree's birthday yesterday. And so he had, went out last night or whatever, had some drinks. And like today's his day off. And the fucking guy on his day off is up in the morning. First thing he's thinking about is getting the coffee to me for our show that he gives us free. And then he walks down to the cafe, which is bustling, right? Think of it on your day off coming to the gym when it's bustling. Like, people want to say hi to you, conversate, like all that. And so he comes to the cafe and is like, here's a coffee, man, then sits and has a coffee with me. And then like I leave.
Legend.
Oh, what a fucking guy.
He's
Yeah,
always
he's a
like
top
that.
guy.
I mean, that is amazing. I'm a part not surprised because I've seen him do things like that before. Like he's always given us stuff.
He's very generous, yeah.
Yeah, when he comes around or if he forgets
He always gives
something.
me a free shot when I go in there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Free shot of coffee.
Yeah.
yeah.
Free shot of coffee, yeah. And you walk out buzzing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Tastes
or like
sweeter.
a bag of coffee or something.
Thank
Good
you.
man.
Thank you, Tree.
Thank you, Tree.
As I'm sipping
Thank you,
this.
Panavore. Where are we at, gents? Paul's got 3 kids. T's got 2 kids.
3.
3.
One in
coming.
one in the belly.
One in the... Oh, yeah.
Coming
it's
out in 4 weeks' time.
4 weeks, brother.
Third
Yeah.
coming.
Azza, how old's your one?
Ruby's 16 months.
16 months.
And how far along is your second one?
Not in the works yet.
Yes. Okay. And Joe?
And I've got... ours is 24 weeks old. Still in the belly.
Bang.
Yeah. 24 weeks it's been created. It's been created. And then we've got, Hattie, which is like my half child that we have sometimes. So there's some kid stuff in there.
You're practicing dad.
I'm a practicing dad. But what I feel quite fortunate being that our business is in a place where it is now that I'm coming into fatherhood. And I look back at you guys and remember us grinding this thing from the very beginning and you guys having your first kids. And I remember watching that and being like, fuck, that looks tough. Not tough, like unmanageable. It just looks like a lot to manage.
Well,
Still going to be tough for you, man.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
It doesn't really matter, does
Just
it?
you wait.
We're going to enjoy that too. Watching you come in tired.
He's like laughing. He's like, and then he's like, sighs like 4 weeks. I'm watching you really enjoying your training
I'm just
lately.
glad I got someone to do it with.
That's true.
Like
Through
me.
that. Yeah.
That's so. I'm really not far ahead there anyway.
Not at all.
No,
You'll
no,
be
no.
coming out the other end a little bit. You'd
Yeah.
like to think.
A little bit.
How old's
Sleepless
Lucia?
8 months.
8 months.
Let's talk about the sleepless nights. How many times are your bubbies waking up at the night now?
Jesus, Ruby's really bad at the moment. She's like, Sarah's mates got her and myself a night away in the Crown Plaza in Hunter Valley and a hot air balloon ride for her birthday. Birthday was back in July. They booked it and they were like, we're going to look after Ruby for the night. And so we went away. This was 3 weeks ago. We went away one night away in the hotel, done the hot air balloon ride, and there was a roster. The girls organised the roster because they had to go to work and stuff, and it was on a Sunday day and then Monday morning. And there was 8 people that that babysat Ruby over a probably 36-hour period or whatever. And so it's like so many different
And they were
faces.
all exhausted.
Yeah. So they all came in and they all, they had their roster done out. But ever since we came back, she's been sleeping terribly, and I don't know what it is. Whether it's we were thinking like separation anxiety or something like that. But she's been waking up sometimes. Like for the first week, it was like every hour she'd be waking up. Even less. Something it'd be like could be 30 minutes. She'd just be crying. All she wants is for someone to be there. So once you go in and you let her know you're there, or sometimes we even just shush her from the
From the door.
No,
Intercom?
yeah, from the door, from the intercom, yeah. Then that works as well. But yeah, she has to like hear you or know that you're there, and then she'll go back to sleep. But then as soon as you got to go back to sleep, she's like awake again.
Oh, yes.
So it's terrible. It's been like that for.
It's like a torture device when you think about it, isn't it? It's what they do to get like information out of people.
Yeah,
Yeah, deprive them of sleep.
Sleep deprivation. Yeah, it's the one.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad at the moment. But she's never been great though. So
Right.
we're sort of just used to it now.
Used to it.
Yeah.
I can relate to that torture.
Yeah, are you
comment.
in the same boat?
Not necessarily.
All
but
three were
just
like
on
that?
on the torture thing. Like it is a bit like that. So it sounds like a horrible word to use, but like sleep deprivation can be just such a motherfucker. Like when you're trying to sleep and you're struggling with it, it's like all night. You know what I mean? It's terrible. And like all the mothers as well, obviously. It's just that there's fathers here today. Now she's doing pretty good at the moment. She got a little bit sick. She's getting up once at the moment and crying in the morning. But we had her down for she'd sleep all the way through until a week ago. She was sleeping all the way through for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. Yeah, Tash did really well to time it, and we used a technique. We got some help, and it was a reasonably smooth transition. I guess it's kind of gotten easier every child in how to understand it, when you should do it, the patience when doing the controlled crying or any similar technique. So yeah, but they're all got their own little rocky roads in each one of their stories. But it's not too bad at the moment. And Tash definitely does all the getting up, most of the getting up all the time.
Things change very quickly, don't they? Like 1 second they're sleeping through, next second they're not, then they are, and then they're not, and you just kind of ride that wave.
It's a definite wave, eh?
It's very up and down, yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about it to my wife the other day. I was like, I'm really not looking forward to having the sleepless night. She looks at me, she goes, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't even do anything anyway.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, but I hear things and then I got to like roll over. And
I know. Oh, God.
Dickhead. But yeah, this time I'm going to be very active with the getting up and rocking baby to sleep and that kind of stuff.
You've made the decision to be.
Yeah, I was with the first two as well.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's important to share the load. I mean, I probably Dee's going to do most of it because usually she's got the boobs.
Yeah.
But I definitely the weaning off process, like when they get off the boob, that's where I feel like I can come in handy the most.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
As they start to get older. But also because we've got the 2 older ones now, I think we'll fall into a role where I'm just looking after the TMI and Ty, and we'll go out and do stuff and just give Dee some space and Bobby some space, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Keep those two like entertained.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I did largely. And I'd say make sure you get your time with the baby in the first 4 months type period where they're just in their own bubble. Because I found that I was I was playing my role, but at the same time I didn't get
connection.
You're often you're the last one to hold her or something like that.
Then thinks you're a stranger and cries
crying.
every time you.
It's weird. Give her some chocolate and then she's mining it.
Chocky milk? You want that chocky milk?
Are you having another one?
Yeah, it's at some stage. Yeah, no plans yet.
No plans.
No, but yeah, it's sort of that. Like, it makes sense to have another one and to have them all fairly, within a year or two of each other. But it's just so much work. It's like,
And when the second one comes, it's double the work.
Yeah.
And supposedly when the third one comes, and you could correct me on this, it's like quadruple the work. Is that right? You feel like the workload's doubled again with the third?
Not really. Nah, it's more like
tripled.
No,
Quartered.
it's good. It's pretty good. Like, they say that you can just keep having more after a certain.
It's the Fijian guy, remember?
No,
Yeah,
it has a
Up till 20,
interesting
it's pretty
effect.
cool.
You get the extra one, so you've got to pay her attention, but at the same time something happens between the other two where they break off and they look towards each other a bit more, and they're getting older as well.
Yeah.
So there's a maturity that happens there, and it's kind of not hugely hard, and
that's nice to know.
and no, man, it's a good thing. Like in terms of like,
You'll be fine, T. Take it from me. The most unqualified guy to tell you.
But as he says, it's hard work. You're like, it's hard work, but at least it's like a investment that has a guaranteed return. It's not like you're going to a job that you hate and there's thankless, and like every time that you have children, there's always all those things that you gain from it. You know what I mean?
Tell me more about those gains.
What, can you put those returns into a monetary value?
No, I can't.
The margins are we talking?
Yeah. But I'm poor and happy, and my tears of joy.
And sleep deprived.
What's the so what I get like confused about is the with the sleep deprivation, like because obviously like I've experienced that, say with work, like when we've been on films or whatever, or even when we're building the gym and you're here till midnight and then you're up early and you can do it for a certain amount of time and then you just have to fucking sleep, right? But I feel like with the baby thing, that opportunity just doesn't come until like a year down the track or 2 years down the track.
Hopefully.
How the fuck does that even work physiologically? Like, do you just crumble at the seams, or do you kick into some kind of other gear that you didn't know you had pre-baby?
I think it's different for everyone, and to try and
also
say
the baby as well,
and the baby too. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. Some people have kids that just like never sleep. Like Stefan and Elise have twin boys, and they would do. They tag teamed.
Oh God!
So one would always be awake at one point over the 24-hour period, all the time.
That's
So
fucked.
one would sleep while the other one would wake, and it was just
Like they made
for
an
2 years.
arrangement.
For 2 years, someone had to. It was like night shift. Yeah, and they had like sleep nurses come in, and the twins would just run them ragged. They'd leave exhausted and failed.
Yeah. I think it's there's definitely like another gear that you kick into. Obviously it's different for everyone, but there's definitely there's something that happens there. Because I mean, if someone kept if somebody kept just waking you up and there was no, you didn't have a child to get up for, you were just getting woken up every 30 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever, like you would be wrecked the next, like you'd be so cranky the next day.
So
you'd give
easily,
in, you'd be so
I don't want
annoyed.
to do
You'd
this
be
test
sick,
anymore.
right? Like
You'd be just so you'd end up just snapping.
Angry.
But I think you just get used to it, and it's just because you don't really. It's not like an angry thing, like oh god, up again. Like it's not that bad. It's you sort of in a way like don't really mind doing it. I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but it's not as if you're like angry either. You know, it's sort of just like it's fine.
It's like
and
your bubby has that effect on you though,
Yeah.
too. Like pick them up and you're like, they just kind of soothe you
Yeah,
when they're not crying.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. So definitely a bit of that, and then obviously being able to split the load with your partner is a massive help. Like if anyone had like single mothers and stuff that have to go through
it's
that,
hard work.
I don't know how
I know.
they would do that. My God.
Yeah, I always think I always think when I'm like in the worst part of whatever,
Yeah.
the dealing with sleep and whatever. Like there's people who've way worse. Like I can imagine, because I have a partner, so
Yeah.
a very active one. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. Same as that. Yeah.
The other big driver for like just getting you out the door and motivated when you have kids is when your wallet starts to empty and you realize you got no money because you just spend it on everything that's relative to being a parent, and you can't even afford a new T-shirt, and you're like, fuck this, I got to work. And so you're just like out there going, yeah, right, okay, let's make some money.
And like all kind of cynicism aside from that, that's like a real driver where you're like, I got to get out there.
The provider
Yeah.
like switch kicks on, and you're like, right, okay, shit's gotten real. I got a few mouths to feed, and my wife's got to pull back on some work, or the whoever's the primary carer, and then someone's got to fucking put food on the table, and kind of go from this place where, well, for myself, where both of us were earning like well, and the only people we had to worry about were ourselves, to like one doing the majority of the earning and then an extra mouth to feed, and it just changes the dynamics. You know, you have to work more or earn more over the time that you're working to live the same quality of life.
Yeah.
So you just kind of kick into business mode. You know, I found for me, and I kind of saw the same thing happen with you too,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all of that, and yeah, I guess, yeah, because I was probably, I mean, I had my own business before Ruby came along, but I was probably just coasting. Like, I wasn't really too fussed whether I was that busy. I'd probably rather if I was a bit like just doing enough so that I could sort of check out early and go to the beach or do some training or whatever.
You doubled down.
Yeah. Whereas, yeah, definitely when we found out Ruby was coming along, yeah, definitely just kicked into that next gear and started to think, all right, well, I need to get my head down and actually like start to take this a bit more serious and start to try and grow the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that led to me then investing in a business coach and getting a lot more serious with it and then seeing a lot more growth. So yeah, definitely big kick up the arse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It pushes your foresight as well, because you're like, okay, well, this child's going to grow, and as they get bigger, they're going to need more food, and then they're going to have clothes and shoes and the rest of it, and then you're thinking, okay, well, what didn't I have that I can give to them, or what kind of life did I live that I want to be able to provide something of a similar quality, and with that, you're like, okay, well, it's going to cost,
Yeah.
and then you're like, okay. Once you start getting into this place like where me and Paul are at now, where they've got like all these activities and whether it's music or sport or what, all of it costs, and you don't want to let go of your own quality of life either. So you don't want to sacrifice, giving yourself nice things and being able to do your exercise and being able to rest, because if you're in good health and you're happy, then that filters down to the kids, So yeah, I think you really have to, if you can step it up and just get more money for the time that you're spending in your business and try and hold on to that spare times that you can spend with it, because it's a real balance, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah. There's something there as well where I think you want them to be proud of you as well. And that if you're talking about foresight, when you're looking ahead, you want, I want Ruby to be able to look at me and say that I was a good example and that I was a hard worker and that I'd done well for myself. So there's I definitely felt a bit more, not pressure, but like I felt like the need to like be successful or be more what's the word? Like just
ambitious.
Yeah, exactly. Be more ambitious and become more successful and just do better. Yeah. For her.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's a really interesting one. I've noticed I think about it a lot in jiu-jitsu. I can think of one guy in particular. Paul, you know this guy from the film industry, Joel
Eames.
Joel Eames.
Yep.
Film guy,
Good guy.
does jiu-jitsu, really nice guy. Never the kind of guy, like when you're in the film industry, you're always sporadic with anything that you're trying to stay committed to. So he was always like in jiu-jitsu for a while and then out, disappear, come back, whatever. And then he had a baby and he was like, you know, like in love with this baby, he'd bring it to the gym, whatever. And I think he had like a couple of weeks off when it was born. And then all of a sudden, the guy, he's like sleep deprived. He's got this newborn baby.
Yep.
And he's training hard as a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then he's signing up for every competition that's coming up. And he's like, I'm doing all these comps.
That's the story.
And it made me remember, because I used to compete against these guys. I remember competing against like fathers with newborns, and they'd be there with their partner and they'd have the newborn. And it made me think like, why the fuck now do you want to compete? Like the situation was good before, like when you had all the sleep and the time and, you know, maybe more resources, but now there's some kind of internal driver that's pushing you towards this, like, to like greater levels of ambition.
Yeah.
What is that, do you guys think?
That's just the nature. It's
That's
a
a role
primal
model
nature to
thing.
defend the nest. Something comes near your eggs or whatever. I guess what
Sort of
as
the
we're
same
saying,
thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's whatever you want to call it, purpose or whatever. It's just like,
Do you all relate to it?
I definitely do. I know that when we almost had a baby, before we thought we might be having a baby earlier on, I'd already started thinking to myself, and I knew that I wanted kids very young from very young. I knew that I was like, fuck, I should just have a baby, because it would be the greatest catalyst for me. I know I want to do all these things, and I know this is like my younger self, and maybe it wasn't so loud and articulate, but I knew that a kid would help me, would be a catalyst to get me going. It just gets you going. There's a reason to live for, or whatever it is. It's just there.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, I guess.
Well, happiness also comes from doing things for others, you know? Like we spend a lot of time on
absolutely.
ourselves, but once you start living for each other, and this doesn't even have to be for your kids, it can be for a community or a group of people around you where you're
so right.
You're contributing. There's a lot to gain from that emotionally. You know, I think humans are driven to give to one another, because if you don't do it, you're going to die out there in the natural world. So there's something that's intrinsic to our nature that makes us get great pleasure out of giving to another, and then with that being a role model, you know. So kids will look up to you, and if you're like what Aaron was talking about, setting a good role model, then that's like, okay, well that's my potential there in my father or my mother, you know. It's something that actually I always talk to Dee about. I really wanted her to continue working on her career, because when we had TMI, I said, I just want her to know that if she wants to get out there and you know, if she wants to have kids and be work from home or be a housewife, whatever, but if she doesn't want to take that path, and be a housewife, that she can go out there and be a primary earner or just pursue her passion. I think my wife's in a really good position to show my daughter that it's possible, you know. So yeah, and I feel the same way about being a role model for my son and for my daughter through the act of business. And I think the biggest change that I felt having kids was pushing into this space where I want to put more time into being more sustainable, because I think that same feeling of holding your kids and thinking, all right, I'm you know, doubling down and putting the effort, and one day I'm going to sit down and have this conversation with them, and they're going to look at me as a role model. One of the biggest things for me was just feeling fucking guilty, which was kind of I don't know, at the time felt a bit strange. where I hold my kids and I'm like, hey, I'm working, I've got money for them. I know they're going to go to a good school. They're in an amazing infrastructure around them in Australia. But how much time and effort am I putting into their future? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I feel like being part of the business that we're in, and I was actually going to send a text to you guys the other night because I had a bit of a moment, same kind of moment you're talking about. I was cuddling my daughter and I felt proud of myself because I really do believe that our next steps with what we're doing with our business is directly relative to pushing humanity in a direction of sustainability. And for me, that's really, really important, you know? So yeah, it's interesting the way kids can start just kind of pushing you into places of discomfort and help your own personal development and growth, you know?
Mm. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, it makes it, there's a lot like from the outside, it's like there's obviously a lot connected to that. Like there's the ambition thing, there's like a sense of obligation or duty, there's like a drive to impress, you know, like there's to protect, like there's all of these things that are kind of tied into that.
Yeah.
That probably, I'm guessing you guys probably weren't aware of those things prior to having a kid. Like, you know, I don't feel like those things are really spoken about much. Like, obviously, yeah, like you're going to protect your child and do the best you can by them. But this idea that there's like intrinsic kind of drivers within you that are maybe only activated to such a degree once you step into that realm.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very primal.
Imagine when I get a hold of that shit.
Damn it.
Look out.
That's what you've been looking for.
Yeah, that's
through
right.
your training journey all these years.
So I guess
Break my other knee.
managing parenthood and business at the same time. So I guess what you're looking at is you got your stress cup and then you've just added a whole bunch of extra stress into your life because it is a stress factor being a parent. And then you're taking away your sleep. And these are all the things that we promote. Okay, if you want to live a healthy lifestyle, you want to lower your stress levels, have me time, decompress, and then, you know, get good sleep and all this kind of stuff. But generally in the first year or two of being a parent, these things are hard to come by, but still manageable. So what kind of hint or tips could you give to Joe coming into his first year of sleep deprived
What do you got, lads?
parenthood?
Just try and sleep as much as you can now.
Accumulate a surplus.
Yeah, exactly. 15 hours a day at least.
I'm a fucking shocker with sleep. I fight it so much. Misa and I sit on the couch and look at each other and we're like, why do we fight it so much? And we'll both be yawning and we'll be like, let's just go to bed. We're going to be so happy when we get there. It's like, but we just, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, here, that's good advice. Start catching more. What do you got, Paulie? You've known me the longest. Surely you got a lesson for me, a tip.
Oh, fuck. I guess I think, what do I think? Just, I guess, not to have too high expectations of any of the journey because it really does change a lot. And you just kind of really got to roll with it. You know, you got to roll with it and be like, know that everything is a phase, short phase, long phase. Like nothing ever stays the same. And that kind of, I think, helps you go through parts of it because there's no tips that are going to help you. You know, it's going to be tough. So it's just like, you know, as soon as it's, you know, when it's really bad, you know that it usually changes after a couple of weeks, you know, and when it's good, you have to remind yourself, enjoy it because it's probably going to change in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So yeah, just, roll with it. Look, when you talk about the tips and stuff, like I think that we're very fortunate here. We all have partners. And, you know, I think for a lot of other people, maybe that natural drive, that kick in, somewhere there, but they might not be in a situation where they can express it, you know.
Great point.
You know, there's other people in bad situations with couples, and that's a side note. I was thinking how that can negatively affect people who can't, you know, who can't just lean into that.
Because they're not creating their own future through their work or whatever. They're like working a job for someone else. Or
but even that primal driver to do that for a person, if you're in a relationship where you're not together, the couples you're not together, or you're not in a mental space where you can express all that for your child, because maybe you're fighting with you're not on talking terms with your partner, then that can negatively affect you. Because I think that, you want to be doing these things, but you're in this conflict where you can't do them. So that energy is like building up, and it can be some bad self-talk or whatever around it.
Strung out.
I can think of, examples of friends and family where you think of, it's that driver that's not being satisfied or expressed, maybe is part of the reason that, pushes you further into a hole. I've gone on a full tangent and I've forgotten what I was saying now.
Tips for me.
Yeah.
Just fucking tell me, bro.
No.
He's like, nah.
I'm sandbagging you.
I'll watch you squirm, boy.
Then I'll offer you a little something.
Yeah.
I'd go with it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, we've also done like a bit of personal development stuff, like the journal and shit. Being able to step out of, because, you get in a bubble, at different times, or you just get into a routine or a rut, and, the journal and stuff like that, having time to step back and think about, what it is, where it sits on the whole spectrum is very important. You're like, this is actually awesome shit. And, I've done it many, many times where I'm writing like, when I think of like, training, it's the challenges that make you better type thing. It's like the ultimate one of that. If you want to be, I believe, it's one of the greatest things that anyone could do, is like go up against this battle, you know what I mean? And have this development. It's like offered to you, and it's on a psychological and primal level that's just whatever. I just think it is if you can keep looking, using the journal and remember why throughout, the whole tough parts, and, it goes a long way.
I've got a little tip for you.
Here we go.
This is something me and Sarah did just before we became along, but have a chat with your partner. So have a chat with Misa and plan, like, or sort of try and envision what it's going to look like when baby comes, in terms of like, doing night feeds, splitting up, whether it's going to be like a 50-50 split straight down the middle, whether you're going to get up and then she gets up, or whether you do one night and she does one night, or whether if she's breastfeeding, whether she's just going to do all the night feeds, or how that's going to work. But being really clear about that before the baby comes, rather than baby coming and then you're like, you just sort of wing it, and then it ends up being like, I'm doing more than you, or you're not doing enough, or that sort of thing. But just having a conversation around that, like if you're busy in your work, like me and Sarah had the chat, and at the time, obviously she was going on maternity leave and all of that. And I was, we sort of made the decision that she would do most of the night feeds, just because I was quite busy at the time and I had to be up early, and I was getting home late, and I'm working with people all day, so I'm like face to face with people all day. The job we do is not really, especially when you're like PTing, not really the job where you can afford to like be cranky or be, like you have to put your sort of best foot forward all the time. It's not like if you're working on a building site or something, you can sort of just get your head down and do the work. You don't have to be nice to anyone as such. Yep. So I think sleep is really important for that. But just, my tip would be just to have a chat around that and have a bit of a plan in place before the baby comes, so that you're like both clear on what your roles are, and that you're both happy with it.
That's very cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we did the same.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. Yeah, that was important.
I can imagine it'd be very easy to just come home with the baby for the first one and then just be figuring this shit out without ever thinking about it, eh? Like, or even talking, or even maybe you thought about it in your own mind, but never having communicated it with your partner.
Yeah.
And then you are like a month in, 2 months in, and there's some kind of thing going on, but it's never been planned or expectations set.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important.
Like, extension of that tip would be to have a community, especially for the mother, but also for the guy as well. The hospitals offer a mother's group, I think, and there's mother's groups that go around, whether it's a mother's group or you have a type family, like you have to have someone to talk to. wants to talk to, like, because you don't have all the understandings of all the little things that she's going through while she's doing all the breastfeeding, and you've also got your frustrations. You'll have us and we'll be able to chat about it. But having those conversations and sharing the experiences with someone, our mothers group was amazing. Like, we couldn't have done it without a mothers group. I couldn't always be there to have those conversations with Tash, and like I said, I didn't always understand what she was going through, but having someone that's on the same timing as you, like you're going to have tea, you guys will be doing it at the same time. That's great for you. And for Misa, maybe she's got some friends around, but it would be great if she had, you had some people that was going through it, so you could have these conversations, because you can really get stuck in a bubble. And, I know we had some times where we were like trying to figure something out, and it was someone just mentioned something. You're like, oh shit, fuck, we should just try that. There's a lot of experimenting going on, hey? It was like, wouldn't sleep, and someone was like, what are you feeding her? And you're like, oh, she's eating all this stuff. Like, she's not eating any carbs, I think it was. And, bam, we just fed her a bunch of carbs, and, during the day. And then it was just like a full flip. She then it was like sleeping for Hawker or Wycliffe, I can't remember, turned. Yeah, so it's just having those people around you, just to chat and feedback and bounce ideas off. That's cool. Yeah, I'll be coming all at you guys. I'll be breaking down in tears up here in the office.
Yeah, I would say another good piece of advice is to not lose sight on the relationship between you and your partner, because sometimes, especially with the first, it's all about the baby, and you're like, oh, baby this, baby that, and it's just baby's there between you all the time, and that's the full focus. And then if you're not, like any relationship, it needs to be maintained, and you've got to put effort and time and love into it. If you don't keep that, stoked, then it starts to come apart at the seams a little bit. And especially if you're both tired, and then things get snappy, and before you know it, you've lost sight of the fact that your baby or your children solely depend on the relationship that you have with the other adult in the house. And if that's in a good place, then if you're happy, the kids are happy. Yeah. Is what I'm trying to say in short, So if things aren't happy at home, then the kids aren't happy at home.
And you've ruined your chance to have another one, your next one. It's so true. Yeah. It's so true.
And just like that getaway, getting up to Hunter Valley, spending some time together, date night, and just rebonding and making sure that your relationship is nice and strong, because it gets tested. You hear a lot of relationships that go into they have the kids, and then a couple of years later it's over, or before
before, because it's
or once the kids start to kind of leave because you've just drifted from your
like
partner,
in the first 12 months,
and then you're like, you don't have anything in common anymore. So
it's do you guys feel like, and this is me looking from the outside of it, do you feel like a lot of that, because you think about like how parenthood happens now, and you talk about like this bubble, and it's you and your partner and the child or the children, and you're in your house, and our houses are all closed off, fence and all that. And you don't have this community that you can, you said it the other day. Did you say it? Or no, maybe Misa said it, but it takes a village to raise a child, and you think about,
it's totally
think about your family with, kids, you got like siblings, and
but even us,
you guys are still closed off, but you do a good effort as a modern family.
Yes.
Like all of you do, of being with other families and sharing the load of the kids in a sense, even just on a weekend.
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of people, like maybe Azza, like you don't have family here. So it's harder for you to get that. You got to go and create it with friends or, people in mother's group or whatever. Yeah. But do you think that modern aspect of the whole child raising thing now is largely what allows the kid to come between the two? Because it's just those two, rather than like, oh, so-and-so can look after it for a few hours and we can have our lunch, or,
When I took TMI back to the Cook Islands, and this is directly relative to what you're talking about, we were in the customs line. And the customs officer comes up to Deanne and says, give me the baby. And Timai was, I think she was about a year old, big chubby thing. And Dee kind of looks at me. I was like, you could give her TMI. And she's kind of like reluctantly handing over our baby. And then she just walks off. And I know what's going on. Like my grandmother's told customs to get the baby and bring it out to the family, so I didn't have to wait in line. And there was a window with all the family on the other side, and Dee's like looking around. She's like, "Where's the baby?
I remember you telling me about that.
Where's the baby?" And then you see this like little chubby thing just getting passed around between like 15, 20 people. One person's got a, next one's got a. Dee's like, "My gosh, she's going to freak out." And I was like, "Just let it kind of be and let's see how she responds." And she was completely fine. It was almost like she knew that she was with family. It's like the smells, the facial recognitions, they just know, you know what I mean? And over the time that we were there with these big groups, your kid wouldn't cry once because it constantly had attention and stimulation from a huge amount of different adults that were all very close to each other. And it was like, okay, that's what we've come from, you know what I mean? And what we have now is definitely an artificial environment. So to try and find a little bit of that back, or try and get a little bit of that back, I think is really important. I think if you go into parenthood and you think of it like this bubble and you're like, okay, I've got to protect my child from the outside world and have them on me all the time, you're creating a lot more work for yourself, and you're probably not doing your kids a hell of a lot of favors, to be honest. You know, you're creating that kind of clingy neediness, and that's just a personal opinion of my own.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree. For sure, all of those things. And when it comes back to when you're talking about the relationship, I think that in a natural environment, you're not supposed to be on your child all the time. And I guess it's part also just like cultural kind of norms and expectations now. Well, at least in the areas that we live and stuff like that.
Now, that'd be the same in a big Irish family though too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We had the opposite effect with Ruby when we went home though, but she was only very young. She's only 6 weeks old when we flew home.
But, that's really young.
Yeah, it was very young. But we got to the airport and there was like probably 30 people there from Sarah and my family. And she just got like passed around straight away. Like we just had gotten out of the gate and then someone straight over, like, you know, taking her. And then next thing she was just being passed around everyone. And then we went back to my house for breakfast and we had breakfast and she was being passed around again. Everyone was like, you know, obviously just in love with her. And then everyone left and it was like really quiet. And Sarah went back. I remember Sarah went back to her house to get some rest, and I kept Ruby in my house. And I was like, oh, grand, you know, I'll get some time alone now with my mum and dad, and they can enjoy her, you know, just the few of us. And she just kicked off and just started like, she was so upset. Yeah, she just started crying, and she was just in a terrible mood. Yeah, and I think she was overstimulated. Yeah. So she was, I remember my sister had to bring her out for a walk to try and like calm her down. And it was a solid like 4 or 5 hours of just trying to relax her.
Oh, that's killer. Supposedly a newborn hits the same decibel as like a large jackhammer.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the
really?
Yeah.
That's like how loud it is.
Very, very loud.
Fuck.
Very loud.
So
You
funny.
cannot
What kind of materials can block that sort of sound out?
not even eat like
Carpets?
Bose
what are we
headphones.
looking at? Yeah.
Distance.
Noise
Just
cancelling.
Purely distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can put a lot of pressure on the relationship for sure. Especially when you just got that one thing you're putting all your eggs into and all your focus. And like you said too, like lots of people are like, I got to do everything right by this baby. But it's kind of like that whole, what is it, like protect and expose type thing. You know, if you create the ideal scenario or the one that you think in your head all the time, it's not always doing them a service. Like they need to be outside sometimes. They need to have you time. They need to have other people time. You know what I mean? It's got to be that balance. And yeah, you see a lot of people putting a lot of effort into it and it becomes a bit of a bubble. But yeah, it's
Like just us
or just quiet room, like not a peep.
Yeah.
Babies that just, everything's got to be quiet all the time. That does a little disservice as well, because then they can't fall asleep when you're on the bus. Like my kids actually sleep pretty quiet. We've got these blackout shutters and stuff like that. And I've always tried to drag it the other direction. We're kind of good because we drag each other in each direction on a lot of things, and we meet in the middle, which is quite good. But
you would have come from a very your household would never have been quiet.
no,
Ever. And you can
not.
sleep anywhere.
I can.
Yeah.
I can.
In any
sleep
noise.
anywhere.
Yeah, I can.
Which is such a massive attribute.
I know. Well, and I was over at my sister's for my mum's birthday. We had dinner last Wednesday night, and I was watching her, and like it's 9 o'clock, and her kids are up, and I'm thinking my kids have already been asleep for an hour, and they're not usually up that late, but she does. It's a little looser, you know. Not that that's wrong or anything, but I was watching how her kid Josiah, who's how old is he? 10 months or something like that, just like fell asleep on our arms, just like we were all talking, and you know they can fall asleep like this. And then his older sister, Carmen, who's just turned 3, came up, and my sister was talking, and he's like asleep in her arms. She just came up and just like pulled his eyelids open with her thumbs. He was like, yeah, and he just went, and he woke up. He was like, and then he went, and he just went back to sleep again. I was like, oh man, she's freaking vicious. She's a savage, that young girl. It's just like, yeah, pulled him open, then ran off again. It's great, but yeah.
That I told you the story that played out, how when Paul and I would travel around Europe and we'd get on, or Japan, and we'd get on a fucking train, and it'd always be like a pretty long distance thing. We'd be going, from one town to another, or one part of the country to another, and we'd get on and it'd be like, we're on this train for like 40 minutes or an hour and a half or whatever. We're getting on the so-so station, and Paul would be like, oh, okay, sweet, and then just like fall asleep. And I would be like instantly, even before he fell asleep, I'd be like, can't miss our stop. Got to make sure fucking know which town's coming up. And so I'd be like looking at the towns, every town.
What?
And then, then I'd be like, Paulie, it's time to get up. And Paulie would be like, oh, what? Okay, cool, thanks, man. And I was like, motherfucker, he can sleep anywhere. Yeah. But it was also like, even if he let me go to sleep, I wouldn't have been able to go to sleep. Like if he said, I'll sit watch. I just, I came from, I was never around cousins and loud rooms, and it was like I'm in my own bedroom sleeping, like so I know what you mean about that disservice in terms of like creating a requisite for mature life. Yeah, it's funny that.
Yeah, it's a balance, I guess, for everything.
I think one of the best things about what we do, and it's not possible for a lot of people, is that we can bring our kids to work, and now that my kids are at an age, I can actually have them in the gym while I'm training, and they're kind of training with me, or while I'm taking even some of my clients, class. They've just been around the space,
self-sufficient
for a long time now. So not only do they get that like role modeling experience, not just from me, but from a lot of other good quality role models in the gym. They get to see what I do at work, but I get extra time with my kids, which is really, really good. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but when your kids want to come to see you at work, it's awesome.
That's cool.
So good. Yeah.
Especially when you got someone like Ty, who's
they love him. They love that guy. I was showing them some video of me on the straps, which was very impressive, I must say. I had put a lot of work into the training for the straps, and my daughter loves doing all the aerial stuff. So I was like showing them the video, and they're sitting there silent, staring at it, very unimpressed. And then I do like a roll up and I come back down, and then Ty pops into frame, like full face shot, and gives like the eyebrows and doobie lips and then a shocker. And my kids are like, oh, that is so good. It's Dad, rewind that bit. And I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, it was great. I was like, okay, so there's role models here in this space.
Yeah.
It's not Dad, the daggy dad, but they're good role models. And kids are going to look for role models elsewhere other than yourself. So I think it's just such a benefit to know that they're here under our roof,
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Clarice told me that Ty says, like, sometimes they'll get up like on a Saturday and be like, oh, what are we going to do? And he'll be like, oh, I think Ty knew he's going to be at the gym today, so we should go there. I want to go see him.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right. And then he fucking comes and hangs out with him for hours.
Yeah, my son
Two ties.
has really found his passion He loves breakdancing.
Wow.
He just loves
So
it.
cool. Yeah.
Right.
He loves it.
Yeah,
he does a lot of
he's getting
lying
good,
around.
he's getting
on
good
the
at it
floor.
now.
He is, yeah.
He's
got
doing
his
headstands and everything.
headstand.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of a spin going. But yeah, it's great.
That's unreal.
Yeah, because all the other stuff I've been trying to almost push him into things a little bit. I don't have never had that issue with TMI. She just does everything. If anything, I'd put the handbrake on her. But Ty's very he has to observe and look at things before he throws himself in, and then he'll decide whether he wants to do it or not. But this is different. Yeah, he just anytime someone wants to dance, he's just it's on for him now.
So good.
Yeah, which I'm stoked about.
So what do you guys think? We kind of sort of touched on it already, but the starting a business at the same time that you're having kids and going through that, what's with that, and what are the, is there, looking back at having all done it yourself to some degree, like as you were saying, you started pushing your PT business real hard at that point, and obviously we had the gym opening, and then Paul, the gym was opening when Falco was born. Yeah. I guess you were still more in the film industry at that time, but
Yeah, I was.
but same kind of deal, like startup and also kid. Could you have done anything differently there? Is there a way that can be better managed? Or is it just, is it kind of somehow taking it all on at once is what is the beauty of it, and that's the driver?
No, I think it's good.
It goes hand in hand
Yeah.
because it goes hand in hand.
What better thing to motivate you than
Yeah.
It's that
providing?
yeah.
It's great.
And usually when I think about people who are starting a business, usually, it's either coming from having businesses before, so you're generally entrepreneurial, or you're someone who's had a job working for whoever it is all your life for a company. It's a big change in your life where you're like, hey, I want to do my own thing now, and I want to have some agency with the direction in which my life's going. So it's usually at a bit of a spring where you're also thinking of maybe you're stopping partying or going out so much, and you're kind of like, what's the next step, maybe with a partner or not. So I don't think it's that uncommon that they happen at the same time. And it's just, it's a great driver at the same time. You're saying is it a better way to manage it? Is there a better way? It doesn't seem logical to do it at the same time type thing. Do one before the other. And someone said, so I don't know who it was who said to us or me that if you want something done, give it to a busy person. And just the idea is that when you're working, when you're busy, you're generally busy.
More
it's just
productive.
more productive.
Yeah.
So you get things done because you're in that mode of work.
Yeah.
And whatever that is, when you're the opposite, it's hard. Everything's difficult to do. But when you're in the middle of a big project or something like that, you can take on a bit more. And I'm not sure exactly what that is, but we kind of identified that at a time. This is talking about when Tash went to start studying, and we were looking at the situation, and there was other reasons as well. And we were like, "Fuck it, let's just do it." It's good timing. By the time we were planning ahead, but it was by the time you're done, the kids will be this age. And anyway, my wife went and studied for 3 years and just finished. I was very proud of her just in November, just gone. 3 years of study while raising 2 kids, and then she was pregnant for the last year. But she just did it. She just drove through it. Late night, just hustling, whatever, shift work between me and Granny and the rest of the family, babysitters and stuff. But there's just a gear there that just helps you keep going.
Yeah, unreal. That's a massive effort.
Yeah,
by Tash, my God.
decent.
I think ideally it's good. Like T was saying, I think it's they go well hand in hand because it gives you that bit of a drive. But I think I think we're all quite lucky because we've all got good partners, and I think it would be impossible. It just wouldn't happen. You need that. Often, it's Sarah at home,
Support network.
Yes.
Yeah, just
totally.
in the support network, definitely. Or for us, we didn't have that, so it's just sort of me and Sarah by ourselves. We have friends and stuff, obviously, but they don't know because they don't have kids. None of them have kids. We're the first to have kids. So like, you know, they're trying to help, but they're not on the same wavelength because they don't understand what we're going through. So they don't really they care, but they don't care, you know? Yeah. So it's like, but yeah, like with her at home, like the amount of work that she done at home was just, you know, unbelievable. And that then allowed me to go out and actually work on my business and, you know, build it. And it was the same for you guys, I'm sure, when you opened up here, you know, and we're very, very lucky as well to work the jobs that we do, that it allows us to go home and help out at home as well and spend some time at home with our children and with our partners. So I think we're blessed really to be in the position we're in, you know, working the job we're working.
For sure.
But yeah, like shout out to the mums out there, or the, you know, the other halves out there,
solo players.
Yeah,
and solos.
It's a lot of work, and we wouldn't be able to, you know, start a business or grow a business if it wasn't for them.
Yeah, I just thought of a big thing that happened to me, which is a tip, which is what you were saying. That part of what you're saying is take help. Don't be afraid to take help from friends and family, because we try to do it on our own. Like, you know, you don't want to put people out, or people offer, but you never take the offer. Or you just want to do it yourself, or you think your baby's only good with you type thing. You gotta take, if someone offers you gotta let go of it, and whatever it is. And for me, it was like a bit of a money thing, and moving back to the in-laws, it was like you want to be Mr. Independent, you know, and you want to lead forward, but it was like, for the long term, this is better for my family, and you have to kind of like go, I need help, and that's hard for people to admit. And then the other tip that I drew out of that was, they're a great motivator. Like you said something, if you're hitting a training plateau, just have a kid. You know?
As your fucking training's gone through the roof in the last year and a half.
Just have a kid, bust through that plateau easy.
Handstands dialed in. Your fight training's just like, I mean, there wasn't really a fight training.
No, that's very recent. But
it's a thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Yeah, it's good.
Body composition.
It's in a good place. It's in a good place at the moment. Yeah, but for a while, the dad bod was threatening.
Yeah. Did you read the article that T wrote, which was avoid the fat dad trap? The one that he got some negative criticism.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I haven't actually known.
Well, there's statistical data on fathers and newborns, and there's like a really high percentage of men that would just put on weight,
get fat
as soon as the kids come. So you got to avoid that trap.
Don't you laugh, Adrian? So I think it triggered a few fathers out there that read that.
Yeah, they're all big ones.
Well, it's like, because training is, for a lot of people, it's not high on the list of priorities. And for me, it wasn't. Before Ruby, it was like work, get my work out of the way, and then train or whatever. And then when Ruby came along, it was like work, or it was like work and then go home and work the second job, which is, help out at home and be there. Training just wasn't even getting a look in. Like, so it took a massive backseat, for a while. I'd be getting a little bit in, but you'd feel almost guilty about training as well, because you'd be like,
hugely.
You'd be like, because Sarah wasn't training either, and she used to train. She trains now. She was doing CrossFit a lot in the lead up, but so I was like, oh well, if she can train and I'm training, like you feel a bit bad as well. Totally. So definitely took a backseat for a while, but yeah, you gotta get it back. I think again, that might be something that you should have a chat to me about before maybe go now training.
That's the
4 sessions a week.
That's reasonable.
Jiu-jitsu 3 times.
Like 4 evenings at jiu-jitsu a week. 2 here and 2 at Alliance.
And if you've got a partner that's understanding with that as well, and obviously that's something that's really important to all of us, is to train, for like just to keep your head right.
If we're happy, baby's happy, as T said before.
Yeah, like it's so important to us. So if you've got a partner that understands that and is cool with that, that's a massive plus.
Yeah. That's a good one to wrap it on there, guys. Thanks for the chat, gents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Azza.
Yeah, cheers.
Good performance from you today, mate.
You getting better each time.
Thanks, Panavore, for the coffee. You guys are legends. Appreciate you guys. If you haven't checked them out, go hit them up there in Pagewood. If you want any help from us, you can get us at Jungle Brothers Movement on Instagram or on the webpage, junglebrothers.com. Internships, workshops, amazing coaching, personal training, group stuff. It's all happening. So get at us. And if you like the episode, please share it with a friend, take a screenshot, tag us, post it on your Instagram, make it a thing that helps to support the show. We're now on Spotify too, if you didn't know. So iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next week. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Okay.
See you.